This is Gay News Radio with Brandon Carmody, featuring Roddy Biggs, Samuel, Laura, and Special Agent Jay.
You're listening to Gay News Radio. Today we're talking with writer and YouTuber Matt Baum. Matt, welcome to Gay News Radio.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So, the GOP had its second debate. It's sort of the talk of the town, and we've come to you because the internet literally Googled everything. It just pointed us right to you as the explain it to us. What happened, Guy?
Fantastic. Well, so my particular
what happened?
Interest was, a bunch of guys got together and a bunch of men and women got together and talked about why they want to be president. No huge surprises, of course, but my interest with watching debates is with what they have to say about LGBTs. I've written about marriage equality extensively. I've worked on the Prop 8 trial for many years. I've reported for LGBT newspapers, and right now I have two podcasts called The Stories of Paris and Defining Marriage. And, I have my YouTube series where I talk about what's happening with LGBT. So this is what I'm watching for whenever there's any kind of news or debate or the presidential candidates are talking about anything. And so what I noticed is there's this continuing of the trend from the first debate of the candidates really not wanting to talk about LGBTs. This used to be such a red meat issue for them. It used to be so easy for Republicans to raise money and get voters out by expressing animus against gays and lesbians. Not so much anymore. Now they're eager to talk about it if they have to and then move on to the next subject. A few of them, like Mike Huckabee and Rick Santorum, are kind of clinging to their animus, but even they, had some brief talking points, but they really did not seem to want to make a big issue out of things. Of course, they did want to talk about Kim Davis because they're getting some mileage out of the Kim Davis scenario.
So it looked like Bobby Jindal drew the first blood, talking about discrimination against Christian business owners. So let's talk about Bobby Jindal for a moment. Was this a move on Bobby Jindal's part to get himself back in the spotlight that Trump stole?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's clear that why Donald Trump is so popular, because he's just so interesting and weird. And so I think Bobby Jindal was able to get some attention by, he was not the only one, but he eventually is using this talking point that I've heard from a couple of different candidates that Christianity is under attack and people are being punished for their faith and you can be arrested for being a Christian. None of this is true, of course, but it's an awfully sticky talking point, and it's the kind of thing that if you are a Christian and someone tells you you can be arrested for your faith, that's really scary. So I understand why people might be alarmed by that, even though it isn't true. And I forget exactly how Bobby Jindal put it, but he had some line about I would just like to have a list of all the jobs that Christians aren't allowed to have, as though people are being fired from their jobs for being Christian, which is just simply flat out not the case. They're being, Kim Davis was ordered to do her job. Of course she's still allowed to be Christian. She's still allowed to have faith. She's still, they're not mutually exclusive. Same with the baker scenario and the florist scenario and the photographer scenario. Folks who said, well, my faith says that I can't participate in a same-sex marriage ceremony, and have faced legal sanctions for having discriminatory policies. That's just how it works. And, the same thing would happen if they said, well, my faith tells me that I can't work with interracial couples. But yeah, there's this persistent talking point of people being.
So I have the list here, and do you want to take a guess how many jobs are on the list?
Oh, is it fewer than one?
Oh, it is fewer than one. That's really good. Yes, no, really. There's Christians can have whatever job they want. That's their civil right, isn't it?
Yes, hooray! It's such a ludicrous thing to say that people are being punished for their faith. I mean, obviously the Constitution protects the free exercise of religion, but in exactly in the same part of the Constitution, the same amendment, it says that government cannot establish a religion, which means that you can't have officials like Kim Davis. You can't have government officials saying, well, the policy of this government office is now to endorse this religious belief. It's just, as much as the First Amendment protects the free exercise of religion, it also protects us from having government-imposed religion on people who do not practice that faith.
Okay, so another non-trick question here, referring to Rick Santorum, Matt. How many bakers, florists, and pastors have been arrested for standing up? How many?
Well, I'm going to take another stab in the dark here and say it's probably less than one.
Yeah, just the one clerk who was an elected official who was required to do her job. The internet even has a popular hashtag that says, "Do your job."
Exactly. And, I don't think that's too much to ask. Seeing that the job of the clerk is really not to pass judgment or to evaluate whether the clerk thinks that the couple should get married. All she has to do is look over the paperwork and certify whether or not their paperwork meets the statutory requirements for marriage. And you know what? Since the Supreme Court ruled that marriage bans for same-sex couples are unconstitutional, same-sex couples are capable of getting married under the law. So all she has to do is look at the papers, say, yep, this meets the requirements, and sign off. She doesn't have to make any kind of religious statement whatsoever. So the conflict is of the making of the people who are raising the objections.
So Kim Davis says through her attorneys that the licenses being issued by her deputy clerks are not legal. The governor of the great state of Kentucky says the licenses are legal and valid. The ACLU says they're not sure. There's some unclarity. What say you?
Well, smarter people than I have weighed in here, and the overwhelming consensus that I'm seeing is a fair amount of confidence that the licenses are valid. It would kind of be unimaginable if, and it's not outside the realm of possibility, but it would be incredible if the laws of Kentucky were constructed such that one stubborn person could prevent people from getting married. It's kind of hard to believe that could be the case. I mean, it is certainly possible. I mean, stranger laws have been written. But if the governor of the state says that the licenses are valid, I'm willing to believe that he has some pretty good attorneys who have looked this thing over, looked the law over, and have given him a fairly confident assurance that he can make this statement. I don't think that the governor would just be casting off his best guess about what the law of the state has. Although it's interesting that the ACLU is unsure, and I would have to guess that they're, sort of hedging their bets there, just to make sure they're taking as close a look as they can, and they don't want to make a pronouncement either way that they might turn out to be incorrect about. But just about everyone who has a trustworthy opinion in this matter, their opinion is that the licenses are going to be valid.
Okay, fair. Now, when we spoke with Jim Obergefell, the lead plaintiff from Obergefell v. Hodges, of course, the Supreme Court decision that affirmed gay marriage, he told us that he was not surprised by the level of civil disobedience by Kim Davis and some others, even defying the highest court in the land. Does this type of civil disobedience surprise you in any way? And do you think that we're going to continue to see more people standing up against the Supreme Court and the law of the land? Do you think more dissidents will occur?
That's a good question. And, it's hard to say, but my suspicion is that, no, we're not going to see too much more of this. Early polling, public opinion polling, shows that there's been a strong public reaction against what Kim Davis is doing. There's been a sharp increase in the number of people who feel that government officials should perform their job equally to all members of the public. They should give all members of the public equal access to government services. It's possible that other people will take the lead and that she'll actually get some traction here. But so far, it's just been one setback after another for Kim Davis and her attorneys. So I think the message that what she's doing is sending, unintentionally, is this is the law of the land. You don't have any, there's simply no recourse legally to overturn this or to resist the Supreme Court decision other than amending the U.S. Constitution. And maybe we'll see some more civil disobedience. But I think what the Kim Davis case is showing us is that it's really not productive. It's not helping the cause. It's not helping their cause. And also, I think it has to be said that civil disobedience can be great. Civil disobedience can be a really powerful and noble tool. But there's this temptation, this happened during the debates repeatedly, to compare what Kim Davis is doing to other people who engage in civil disobedience, like incredibly, Martin Luther King. I think it was Rick Santorum who compared Kim Davis to Martin Luther King, saying, well, they both went to jail for for what they believe in. And that's true, kind of, but, Kim Davis is going to jail for, and what she believes in is standing in the way of the equal treatment of people. That is not what Martin Luther King was standing up for. If you want someone to compare Kim Davis, and more than Kim Davis, Mike Huckabee and Rick Santorum, folks who are standing in the way of progress and equality. I mean, compare them to George Wallace, who stood in the schoolhouse door and tried to prevent school desegregation. Those are the folks. And George Wallace, he was reacting to a Supreme Court decision, Brown's Board of Education, that he felt was unjust. Here we have a government official who says, well, the Supreme Court has ordered that the schools be desegregated. I don't think they should be. I think they should remain segregated, and I'm going to violate the law for what I believe in. So, and he stood up for what he believed in. The act of standing up for a belief can be great, but it can also be a terrible thing, as it was with George Wallace, and as it is with Kim Davis, as it is with Mike Huckabee, as it is with Rick Santorum.
Coming back to the GOP debate, one of them said that they would use executive powers to reverse same-sex marriage, and talked about the activist judges, and a few others made remarks about giving no credibility to the judges that changed the law of the land. So the tenor of the debate, it's like they're off message, grasping at straws to hold on to the old Republican message. I think that's what you were hitting at earlier. I think in general they would just assume avoid the issue until someone brings it up and they're forced to answer, wouldn't they?
Yeah, what you're hearing there is the last gasps of a desperate movement to restrain the freedoms or impinge on the freedoms of LGBTs. There's no chance of whoever is elected president using executive power to reverse the marriage equality. It doesn't work that way. So I don't know what they could even possibly imagine they would do. They're saying that, Mike. Who was it? Oh, it was Rick Santorum. Rick Santorum said that if he was elected president, he would just ignore the Supreme Court decision, and as president, he would. It doesn't work that way. I mean, it's insane that we would have a president essentially going rogue and saying, "Well, sorry, branch of government, I'm just going to ignore you." I mean, what we're looking there is just anarchy on the part of the president. It's unimaginable. As unimaginable as Rick Santorum becoming president.
My personal take on Trump, based on the anti-women, anti-minorities, Latinos, and all the rhetoric coming from him, is that he may actually be textbook unelectable, despite the fact that he's killing it in the polls. So, do you suspect that there's going to be some point where he either burns every possible voter out, or some rising star steals the torch? I mean, I know it's early in the game, but at this point he's been running strong for 3 months, and I'm still amazed.
He is a fascinating entity, isn't he? It's like some new species of sea life has been discovered. He's a new species of politician. What he's doing is just throwing such a monkey wrench into the process. And I totally get why he's pulling so well. He's so entertaining and strange. You just can't take your eyes off of him. He's like a weird jellyfish. And I also understand the appeal, because watching the debate last night, I kept thinking, oh my gosh, these politicians I can't stand them. And the one guy on stage who seems to annoy them the most is Donald Trump. So I'm all for the guy who's annoying the people I don't like. That having been said, it would be kind of crazy town if Donald Trump was actually elected president. I'm really enjoying seeing the chaos that he's sowing in the Republican Party. My concern, of course, is that he's giving credibility to some really unattractive ideas, and not just unattractive, but dangerous ideas. The racism and sexism that he is spouting is not just unpleasant, it's outright dangerous. There's just a piece in the New Yorker about how a lot of white nationalists are delighted by his presidency and are saying, well, finally, someone's giving some credibility to what we've been saying all along. That is horrifying. So on one hand, I'm enjoying the disruption that he's causing, but on the other hand, I really hope that the impact is not that suddenly it becomes credible or fashionable to, say these horrible racist, sexist things without feeling any shame.
Well, I'm going to invoke Hillary Clinton. She's finally sat down for 2 interviews now. Andrea Mitchell was lucky enough to get her last week. And when asked about Trump and about the tenor of his comments, Hillary Clinton pointed out the reason that a Barack Obama or that a Hillary Clinton seems very careful about the choice of their words is because of the overall impact. They have seen it through multiple administrations. Any slip of the tongue, any remark that the President of the United States makes that can be misinterpreted has reverberations. And so in thinking about that, Donald Trump on the campaign trail has already spewed so much hateful and angry rhetoric. And honestly, if you look at his Twitter, there's a lot of profanity involved. I mean, these are not presidential behaviors. This doesn't convey the attitude, the gentleman and business-like, what's the word I'm looking for? It's not presidential. It really comes down to this is not presidential behavior. It doesn't reflect our nation. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I don't even know what presidential is at this point because, we put out kind of the president on this platform, on this pedestal of, we think of, I don't know, Abraham Lincoln or Thomas Jefferson or, we think about the great statesmen of the last 200 years. And there have been some very dignified, noble presidents. But politics now is such a, it's such a reality show. You see the people who are running for president in 2015 and who are going to be running in 2016. And, what I see is a bunch of millionaires who are jostling to get in front of cameras, to essentially advertise themselves, so that they can continue to be in a position of power to make more money. I don't see anyone behaving presidentially. I see people putting on the face and putting on the act. I was very impressed with Carly Fiorina. I thought that she really comported herself well in the debate. I thought she was a really strong speaker. I don't agree with a lot of the positions that she takes, but she seems like someone who commands respect, despite disagreeing with her on a lot of positions. So it's strange. I think that some of the outsiders like Carly actually have a presidential demeanor. Other outsiders like Trump have a clownish demeanor, a Kardashian demeanor. He's very successful at making people want to talk to him, or talk about him. And that's been his job for basically his whole life, is getting along with people, as he said during the debate, to get along with people and to make people interested in what you're doing. He's a natural at that. I don't know that he's inspiring. I don't know that he's a leader. I mean, he's certainly inspired and leading white nationalists, so that's something. But like you say, just imagining him, I don't know, addressing the UN or meeting heads of state or having to negotiate, heaven help us, some sort of nuclear arms deal. Good grief. I can't even imagine this strutting, grimacing buffoon that we saw up on stage the other day.
It just seems impossible. It seems impossible, And here's a note on Carly Fiorina. And yes, I freely admit that I, like everybody else that's looking at potential candidates, you're looking at it through the lens of your own special interests. So what are we? We are LGBT. So we want to look at a candidate that's going to, in our case, we're not looking for someone that votes for special rights since we're only seeking equal rights. Carly Fiorina told the Christian Coalition in 2010 she supports a constitutional amendment banning same-sex marriage. So, strike one for Carly Fiorina. She loses me on the same-sex marriage issue. She ran Compact into the ground, fired 30,000 people. So there are some missteps there. However, she does score a point with me for being a woman with a pretty face, to quote Trump.
Oh, boy. Donald Trump was just, honestly, I sympathized with Carly during the debate when Donald Trump was, again, being this horrible sexist towards her and commenting on her appearance. And, it gave me this, pang of empathy for her. And then I remembered, she supports lower gas prices, and she wants the Keystone Pipeline. She supports No Child Left Behind. She supports capital punishment, which is something that I oppose. There are all these positions that she takes, but I'm like, oh gosh, I can't support this person because she is opposed to so many things that I believe in. That having been said, just as a personality goes, I think she seems lovely. It's only when I find out what she stands for that I find her so unpleasant. Unlike a lot of the other candidates, like Mike Huckabee and Rick Santorum, just straight off the bat, I'm like, I couldn't get along with these people. Carly, on the other hand, I think she seems nice. I think she would make a perfectly fine next door neighbor, and that's about as much of an elected office as I would want her to have.
So when someone like Trump seems to be getting close to the nomination, again, I'm guilty of this from 2012. I'm known for posting a YouTube clip on social media. I go back to the Dead Zone with Martin Sheen, and there's a whole scene in there where they flash forward to 20 years when he's president, and he wakes up in the middle of the night, and he's had this vision, and they get out the nuclear football, they get out the case, and he forces this general to put his hand on the button and release the missiles, and he threatens to cut the general's hand off. And as soon as they press the button, they're all happy that the missiles are flying. And that was the whole reason that Christopher Walken needs to kill him, because he saw that the president was a freaking wacko. He was a madman, was going to unleash the nukes and set us off into war. So when I see, like, a Romney or I see a Donald Trump ascending to power, I get those visions of their hand on that briefcase with nuclear launch codes, and I get afraid, Matt. I get afraid knowing they have those codes.
Yeah. I can't think of anything I would want Donald Trump to have less than nuclear weapons. I mean, I don't even want him to have a TV show, let alone warheads.
Right. Oh, we have many. We have lots. We're really good at that, unfortunately. War is terrible, and we don't want to see another war like that. That's not good for anybody. But that's what I see in Trump.
No.
I see him angering nations to the point where we might at least be, Cuban Missile Crisis, right at that tense last moment at a standoff. I hate the thought. I hate the thought of us having a president in office that is so bombastic that other nations are just pissed off and they're ready to nuke us. It's a scary thought.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It is. And he's such a pugilist. He's so combative that, oh boy, just the thought of him shouting at world leaders, it's one thing to have a good head for business and to lead a business to the top of its potential. Businesses don't have nuclear weapons. Businesses aren't countries. So I don't know that having a good, even the greatest businessman in the world might make a terrible world leader. So, I'm looking forward to seeing, as we get further along in the general election. I will say, it's still way too early to care about who's running for president. It's a circus right now, and there's no reason to take it, to take it seriously at all. There's a dozen and a bit people running for president. They'll all be shaken out, and eventually we'll get to a place where, there's a few of them going head to head with Hillary or Bernie Sanders or whoever else seems to be making progress. I do like Martin O'Malley. I think Martin O'Malley's great. He did some really lovely things we have him to thank for marriage equality in Maryland. He was the governor of Maryland, and he pushed marriage equality through at risk to his career, but he made it happen. He was a real leader there. I would not mind seeing Martin O'Malley make more progress as a presidential candidate. So I'm looking forward to seeing how the serious folks make progress once the pre-show. I'm thinking of this as sort of the warm-up act, the comedian who comes on before the headliner. Once this part of the circuit is over, I'm looking forward to seeing what happens with the serious folks.
I heard that Bernie Sanders went into Jerry Falwell's university this week and gave a pro-gay marriage speech. So Bernie Sanders also picking up some steam. I worry though, Matt. I think it's the same concern as Joe Biden. Joe Biden's people, by the way, have already made him promise that if he announces to run, one of the first things that he will tell America is that he guarantees he will not run a second term so that we don't have to fear him dying in office. Well, I like Bernie Sanders, but when I hear him talk and I hear that hoarse voice, I worry about that. Just a little bit. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, he's been going strong. People who've lived longer He seems to be in good health, but I think that's a legitimate concern. But having been said, I'm certainly not one of those people who's like, oh, old people, they shouldn't. It's time for them to get out of the way. I have a lot of respect for his experience and expertise. I think he's somebody that absolutely you should do listen to, whether he's president or whether he's an advisor or whether he's just holding elective office. He's been a great leader for decades. My gosh, I mean, he's been responsible for so many great things. I absolutely don't think that his age should disqualify. If anything,
he came here to Portland. He came here to Portland and he filled up our Moda Center with 27,000 people a few weeks ago, and that was the highest attended event of the entire campaign season so far. So Bernie, right here in Portland, Oregon, had one of the biggest crowds that's been seen yet. Larger than Trump's crowd,
So, tell me about everyone was on the GOP stage. I mean, I think even Trump made a comment about certain people shouldn't have been allowed into the adults area zone, so to speak. How long do you personally think it will be before we see more Governor Rick Perry's, where campaigns are either imploding or running out of money? There is a lot of people in the field this year.
Boy, it is hard to predict. I think it'll be a surprise when it happens. It reminds me a bit of like, some sort of post-apocalyptic car chase where it's like something from Mad Max, where there's just all these strange, wonky vehicles all jostling for position, and the slightest little thing will cause them to explode or drive off the road or run off a cliff. But you never know when it's going to happen, so it's very exciting. I wouldn't be surprised if by the time we get to the end of the year, I wouldn't be surprised if the field is dwindled by maybe like 3 or 4 more dropouts. Who knows? It's impossible to say. I would expect to see more folks dropping out. I can't imagine that Ben Carson's going to be in for much longer. I'm thinking back to looking over the field at like who's the most likely to have a scandal or who's the most likely to just plain run out of money. I was actually surprised that Rick Perry dropped out as fast as he did, but then again, when's the last time you read an article about Rick Perry? So I just was not getting attention. I think Lindsey Graham, I don't know what he's still doing in the race. He's such a political pro, he's such a veteran that he should know by now that he doesn't have a chance. So, I wouldn't be surprised if Lindsey Graham doesn't make it to the end of the year. So we'll see. We'll just have to see. It's impossible to predict, but I think I would guess by spring. Let's say by spring, we'll know who we're actually voting for, and we'll be done with all this nonsense. We've got to get through a long, dark winter.
Well, I'd love to get your comments about the media and how they affect it. Kind of like the Game Master in the Hunger Games movie. How you got Philip Seymour Hoffman back there moving the pieces, and literally the game moves the way he directs it. This is what I think about the media reaction. I mean, the 2 headlines that I saw today immediately following the debate, one was picking Carly Fiorina as the early winner. So, of course, the more press, the more positive headlines. That's going to impact her poll numbers. But they also targeted Scott Walker, with headlines like, Scott Walker fizzles at the debate. His campaign staff runs scrambling. So it's like, so if you're going to throw Scott Walker under the bus and say that he failed, it's like you're going to push him into the corner. Donors and money is going to dry up, and the media could be sending him down that dark path to implosion. And so what's your thought on how the media controls elections? Do you have any thoughts on that?
I think the media is as desperate as the candidates for attention. Watching CNN last night, I was just struck by how hard they have to work to make it sound like there's anything interesting happening. They've got these opening graphics and the music, and it's so dramatic. It's like it's a heavyweight fight. When really it's just a bunch of millionaires getting up there and trying to talk people into giving them more millions of dollars. I don't know. I feel like there's this horrible echo chamber where candidates kind of babble about their talking points, and then the media repeats it and doesn't question. I mean, that's the crazy thing about last night's debate to me is that the moderators really did not push back or question anybody. I have to say, occasionally, one of them would say, "Oh, you didn't answer my question," which, great, okay, make them answer your question. But making outright false statements about, Rick Santorum repeated this myth that's been debunked that one of the Columbine shooters killed a student because she professed her faith in God. That's been shown not to be true, and details like that. Why do moderators not question the candidates when they come out with something that just is not accurate? Has been debunked. So
I think it was Cordy. I think it was the Cordy site that started talking in their headlines today about how crazy the GOP field is. I mean, they're the ones that use the word crazy. I'm not going to say crazy, but they said crazy.
It's They really. I mean, I think they're taking a lesson from Trump in that they need to get people's attention by doing something outrageous, and so they are. I don't think that's great. Hopefully, by the time we get to a few more months down the line, sober heads will have taken over. I don't know. That's my hope. It's exciting to watch the nonsense right now, but when it's time to actually vote, it would be nice to have some serious candidates.
Okay, I found it. Here's the quote from Cordy. If there's a difference between last night's GOP presidential candidate debate and the norovirus, it's hard to determine. Both have the same general effect, and both seem to last about as long. So they're comparing last night's debate to the norovirus. That's pretty much describing a sickness. I love it.
Yeah. Fortunately, it is safe to completely ignore the GOP debate. You can pay attention if you want to, and it's an exciting reality show, and it's as important right now as keeping up with the Kardashians. These folks are not serious politicians, most of them. They're just on TV because they want attention, and it's a silly show. So watch it, enjoy it, have a good time, but don't feel as though you are a bad person for not paying attention to politics right now, because politics right now does not matter.
Well, I liked your video, Matt. I think we should get that trending. I think instead of the news repeating the CNN and Fox loops the way they're showing actual clips, I think they should show your video and the way you break it down. I'm voting for you.
Thank you. Yeah, well, so I've been paying attention. I put up. I try to go for every Monday. I have a new video up on my YouTube channel about what's happening with LGBT issues and politics and important matters. That's at youtube.com/mathbound. I've got a lot of videos up there about more lighthearted stuff like entertainment, which honestly, the presidential debate right now is just pure entertainment. So I've got my politics videos, my serious issues videos. It's at youtube.com/mathbound. And then I've also got, I do videos about LGBT issues on TV and how we're depicted in movies and films and video games. I've got a little bit of everything up there.
Well, and I thought some of the Kim Davis stuff, I couldn't believe it. I mean, they posted a video, and it was a gay couple literally in line asking Kim Davis for a license, saying, why? Why are you denying it? The court is demon on whose authority? And she just looked at them with this piercing dagger stare and said, on God's authority. And I'm watching the video like, she's freaking kidding us, right? But she wasn't. She was serious. It was cartoony.
Yeah. She looks like she just comes off as a villain in an '80s film about uptight yuppies. You could not write someone who is more, bless her heart, unappealing to couples who just want to get married and just go to an office. They need to get the paperwork. I think everyone can sympathize with someone going to a government office and needing to stand in line and get your papers taken care of and just wanting to get it over as fast as possible. And it's so easy to put yourself in the position of those couples, those poor folks who just need a signature on a form, and it's turned into this, international incident. I think Kim Davis, like everyone sees Kim Davis as, oh gosh, it's just one of those government officials that's trying to make your life miserable. It's like the DMV come to life.
Well, we have so many, post Supreme Court decision in June, we as an LGBT community have so much more to do. I'm quoting Chad from the Human Rights Campaign. You can get your marriage license at 10 a.m. You can marry your partner at noon. You can post the photos of your wedding on Facebook, at 2 p.m. And by the end of the day, you're fired for your job because you came out as gay.
Yeah, there's still a lot of terrible laws or lack of protections all across the country. So marriage is great, but now it's time to roll up your sleeves and get to work.
Yeah, we have employment discrimination, we have economic inequality. There's a lot to do, and so what I'd like to ask is for you to be our Morgan Freeman and come explain it to us whenever we don't understand.
Absolutely. I'm happy to do that. I've got my videos. Folks can connect with me on YouTube. That's youtube.com/mattbaume, MATTBAUME. And I'm on Twitter. I love to respond to folks and engage with people on Twitter and talk about whatever's going on. That's the same thing, MATTBAUME. And I'm also on Facebook. Folks can find me on Facebook. It's facebook.com/mattbaume.
Okay, Matt. Well, we'll link you up. Thank you so much for coming on Gay News Radio and helping us break down the GOP debate. All right. We'll be watching you every Monday.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Have a good one.
You too.
You're listening to Gay News Radio. This is Friday, September 18th, and we're welcoming Special Agent Jay, contributor, back to the show. How are you doing, Jay?
I'm doing well, Brandon. Thank you very much.
This is going to be our first full episode. We survived 2 weeks of our first 2 weeks out there, man.
Yes, we did.
I am pretty impressed with the guest and the responses. What's your feeling on how we're doing at this point?
Well, I've been reading the tweets and I've been reading the feedback, and it's all positive. And I think you're really onto something with this. I think it's great that you're reaching out through social media because that's the way of the world right now, and it seems to be working. So, congratulations.
Thank you. Thanks for being a part of the team. All right, so we're going to do some topic discussions today. We threw it out there to several people, so I'm going to kind of cut it together like a montage. But question number one goes out to Special Agent Jay. We're talking about Kim Davis, the Rowan County, Kentucky clerk that has just stolen all the headlines from everything else. She was released from jail last week. She came back to work this week. So while she's not directly interfering with the issuances of gay marriage licenses, she's sort of holed up in her office and letting her deputy clerks issue them. But here's the problem. She says those licenses are invalid. The governor of Kentucky says they're valid. The ACLU isn't sure. So what's your thought on the validity of the licenses being issued in her absence?
Well, my official position is she is welcome to have whatever sort of opinion she has, whether that's faith or a belief system, something that can be categorized, I don't know. But she was an elected official, and she needs to follow the law of the land. That's my bottom line. If she could be impeached, perhaps face a recall, I don't see that as likely considering the region and its history. But gosh, I'm a believer myself, and so I can identify with being condemned for, believing in that imaginary white-haired guy in the sky, whatever. But, it's your job to sign those certificates, and you were elected to sign those certificates. And at the end of the day, you can go home and complain about it to your husband, wife, whatever, and, oh gosh, honey, I had a heck of a day at work. I had to marry 2 men. Holy cow. But I just, gosh, it's a very frustrating sort of perspective because I understand from both sides, being gay and a believer, I have, both sides of the story. But, there's that old bumper sticker that many have seen, and it reads, Christ, I love you, but your followers scare the crap out of me. And that's kind of my position on it. Because I've read the Bible, as most Christians actually have not. So I've read it 3 times. So it's very ingrained in my life. I was raised in an evangelical church, and, it was very much hellfire and brimstone when I remember growing up. But now it's changed. They had this whole band come in playing bluegrass music. And we have a very young pastor, I think he's 35, and there's a whole bunch of younger people in there and filling the seats, and, there's this transformation happening, and I'm just sensing a lot of resistance because older people don't like change. So that's kind of where I'm at.
Did you know that there are only 6 passages in the entire book of the Bible that actually refer to homosexuality? 6 passages.
Yeah, and most of them are in the Old Testament before Christ was even born. So, I mean, if you're going to call yourself a Christian, you need to follow Christ's teachings. And if I remember right, he saved a prostitute from being stoned to death at the well. So I see a lot of compassion in Christ's teachings, but people want to go back and pick and choose the verses from the Old Testament and use that as their argument. Well, that's not it, because Christ himself said, according to the Bible, I fulfill the law. Now, what law he was talking to and talking about was the Levitical law of the Old Testament. So you pretty much just take your hand and wipe all that away, and you start with the birth of Christ. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, I loved that story when I was growing up.
Yeah, and he started drawing in the sand, let he who is without sin cast the first stone. Who is without sin? I've sinned, you've sinned, everybody has made a mistake, an oopsie daisy once in a while. We all do. It's called being human.
Kim Davis. Hopefully we can move on very soon. So the other thing I wanted to mention here, so the Republicans like to get together and have a big debate. I guess it happens seasonally. So they got together at the Reagan Library, had their debate, and there were several members that started with the anti-gay and anti-same-sex rhetoric. It actually began with Bobby Jindal, and Rick Santorum got a few zingers in there. So wanted to ask you what your thoughts were on the Republican debate. What did you think about the anti-gay rhetoric? And God, I hate to ask, but what did you think of Trump and Fiorina?
Well, I did catch some of the debate, to be entirely honest. A lot of it was filled with vitriolic rhetoric, as you said, and I just couldn't stomach it. But I did catch a lot of the highlights. When it comes to the anti-gay rhetoric, I would say not surprising at all. A lot of people feel trumped by SCOTUS right now because they made that sweeping decision to just make marriage equal for all, which should have happened years ago, but it's done now. Trump and Fiorina, it's actually kind of interesting that you would bring that up because I was having an early dinner with my grandparents this afternoon at the old spaghetti factory, and that particular conversation was brought up in that nobody can get along in either Democratic or Republican, Independent, Green, Libertarian Party. Nobody can agree on what to do. And Trump seems to have a bit going for him, which is very disturbing that he has the cojones to actually come out and say certain things. But that being said, Fiorina, on the other hand, used to be, I believe, CEO of Hewlett-Packard, maybe CFO, and she lost her job. So she clearly doesn't know how to run a business, and if you're going to be president, you have to run the country like a business. There has to be a profit. There has to be a margin. And we're not doing that right now. But for him to say what he did about her face, that was sexist, misogynistic, and rude. And as Hannibal Lecter would say, I only eat the rude. I don't understand his popularity, and I think it's just sheer morbid curiosity of the public just to see what will happen. And we're still more than a year out from the actual election in November of next year, and there's a lot that can happen between now and then. So I think it's just kind of a wait-and-see approach. I haven't made my decision yet, so I'm waiting for more information before I decide.
Well, I can tell you that the talking heads are calling it for Carly Fiorina. They're calling her the early winner of last night's debate and saying that with her clearly pre-rehearsed jabs at Trump in her comeback, that she scored a lot of points with women who, as you just pointed out with his misogynistic attitude, women are burned by Trump, and Carly Fiorina is the only other woman in this race. However, I hate to break it to you, if the gays are looking for hope in Carly Fiorina, here's a headline. In 2010, Carly Fiorina told the Christian Coalition that she supports a constitutional amendment banning same-sex marriage. So she's a woman, and she has a pretty face, as Trump pointed out, but she's as anti-gay as the rest of them. I hate to tell you.
Yes, I did catch that part. I have been following some of the opinion reports on CNN and whatnot, but yeah, that's not going to score her any points. It really isn't, because all these log cabin Republicans, which for your listeners are the somewhat closeted gay Republicans out there, they have a strong lobby base, and they have a lot of pull, and they have even more now. So she needs to back off on that particular opining about her particular beliefs on gay marriage and whatnot, because that's just going to cost her so many votes.
Well, we'll see where it goes. She finally graduated from the kiddies table to, again, quote lecture. She made it to the adult stage. So she was expected to perform, and she did. But my God, everyone's trying to take some of the oxygen back in the room from Trump. Trump is stealing all the air.
I did like her comments on women's health issues. They were very short. They were very to the point. They were very sharp. I mean, she didn't wander around the topic. She just said what she thought, and it was very concise, and it was very accurate, I believe. So, yeah, she certainly does have potential.
All right. Well, we'll continue to watch her. So I know you have some particular feelings about Vladimir Putin, so that's why I brought you in, Special Agent Jay. So apparently Elton John, who, as we know, is a legitimate champion for LGBT rights, has been trying to contact Vladimir Putin and reach out to the Kremlin. Earlier in the week, Elton John announced via social media that he received a call from Vladimir Putin, and they talked about LGBT rights in Russia, and they got somewhere. And then now, these two jerk radio DJs out of Russia have released the fact that they hoaxed or they pranked Elton John, pretending to be Putin and his interpreter. So first, I'd like to get your reaction to the fact that these jerks pranked Elton John. What do you think about the fact that this was a hoax?
I have mixed feelings on it, but I think it actually will open up a bit of a dialogue among the Russians and other people who heard the interview. I heard snippets of it, and while I'm not a big fan, I'm glad I'm here to put it in. I think it could be a catalyst for a new sort of discussion as to what sort of influence celebrities have over social commentary and the social environment at large. Because, I mean, when George Clooney speaks about, hunger in Africa or Sudan, people listen and they donate money. Now, the whole prank aspect of it, I think was mean. I think that was very mean because Elton clearly thought he was really, making progress. It's kind of like that Opie and Andy situation where they dared someone to have intercourse in a Catholic cathedral confession booth. And they did, and they aired it live on the air. And, but that really did open up a whole new dialogue as to what's appropriate, what needs to happen, how do we deal with this? And so it certainly raised a few eyebrows, mine included. But, he made himself an easy target trying to reach out to Putin. And it really doesn't surprise me. But what's done is done, and people are talking about it, and I guess that was the goal. So they succeeded in that respect.
Well, let me give you a hypothetical. Let's say that the call wasn't a prank. Let's say that Vladimir Putin really called, or even better,
let's say if Putin invited Elton John to Russia for a face-to-face meeting, which is really, really where you want to be, do you think that Elton John meeting with Vladimir Putin would result in what? What do you think would result of the meeting?
It would be completely pointless. It's very clear he's set in his ways, and he has to stand up for Mother Russia, and, you know, everything she stands for. I mean, anybody on YouTube, you know, when you watch those fail videos, 9 out of 10 of them are these Russian guys trying to show off, doing acrobatics, and failing miserably because they see that picture of Putin with his shirt off, riding a horse bareback, and they think, oh, that's the person I want to be. And so, I don't know, it's just a whole different culture. I've never been to Russia. I've been close. I've seen it. Flew over it, but I've never been there, and I really have no intention of ever going. But, yeah, it's just the culture shift.
It's not easy for the Western culture to affect others when you have such a long-standing regime. You know, like we've gone through the Soviet Union, we're now into the current culture. It's sad,
War,
but
there was a lot that happened.
Diplomacy will eventually prevail, but how and when remains to be seen. Haven't asked anyone else about this, but I know that you're a fan of Tom Hardy. We even went to see the last Star Trek Next Generation movie together, and he played the Picard twin. So apparently a reporter asked Tom Hardy about his sexuality, and it's just turned into a viral video that's just blown up on the internet. Do you know anything about this, or do you have any thoughts on Tom Hardy going viral and yet still wanting to remain private about his sexuality here?
Well, I think a person's sexuality is a very private thing. I don't necessarily wear it on my sleeve, but, you know, I very openly talk about having a husband or a partner, and, you know, but when it comes to Tom Hardy, from the trailers, I haven't seen the film yet, but Mad Max Fury Road looks really freaking good, and so does he. I would tear him apart. Oh my God. He's so hot. And my husband thinks so too. So, I mean, it would be like a tag team sort of thing. I don't know.
Well, so I'm looking at an article here. Hardy did an interview in 2008 where he admitted that he'd had sex with men, but, you know, he didn't say he was gay. He just, you know, a little experimentation. So, I mean, it's kind of out there already. I mean, the shock value is already gone. Where he's at personally, you know, which way he goes, that's really kind of his personal business. But yes, a reporter put him on the spot this week in front of an entire media panel. Hardy shot him down. Now the video's gone viral, and it's kind of like Hillary in the email bit. Now every interview that Hardy does is chasing down the sexuality thing. It's kind of like Trump. It's taking the oxygen out of the room.
Well, yeah, but again, I mean, a person's orientation and preferences are their own, and there's really no way to quantify them. I see everything as a spectrum. There's no this or that, because my husband has 2 children from a previous relationship, but he's a very openly gay man. I have no children that I know of, and but, you know, I'm very confident in knowing that I am gay. So, I mean, there's this fluidity. I mean, if Angelina Jolie hopped into bed with me, I would not kick her out. I really wouldn't. And Mia Jovovich, Lilu from The Fifth Element, I would not kick her out of bed either. So, I mean... I
like the redheaded chick from Avengers. Who's that? The redheaded chick in Avengers. You know
Scarlett Johansson. Oh, yeah, she's fierce. Totally fierce.
Yeah, I like her. In a non-biblical way. So Tom Hardy, okay, Tom, you don't have to call us, you don't have to email us, you don't have to answer it. Just send us a Snapchat, will you? Okay.
Yeah, seriously, I want to see what he's working with.
All right, so just wanted to let you know that we do have some upcoming interviews. So we're going to be interviewing the entire cast of the East Eastsiders. That is a web series on Vimeo out of London. So I'm really excited to announce to you right now that we've just booked the entire cast of Eastsiders. Their season 2 just came out this week. I haven't had a chance to see it, but the trailer looks incredible. I encourage you to check that out. And we have about 10 more guests lined up, so we're going to be very busy on this show. Very busy.
Well, it sounds like you got yourself a full book, and I'm glad that you've been able to land these actors and supporters and advocates, because, I mean, yeah, but what you've been able to pull up so far is quite impressive.
I've softened up a little bit on my view of the movie Stonewall. I just want to admit that on air. I saw the featurette or the early bits that they released, and it actually shows some trans people of color and a true historical figure with some of the folks. I don't want to give any spoilers, but let's just say I'm willing to give Stonewall a real chance here now that I've seen what they really did with it.
Well, there really aren't any spoilers to be told. I mean, yes, it is based on a true story, but it involves fictional characters. However, if anybody's interested in the whole story, all they have to do is Google it. All
right. Well, shall we meet back here next Friday, same bat time, same bat channel, Special Agent J?
All right. I'll wait for the red phone to ring.
All right. Have a good day.
Religious freedom and gay marriage. First of all, we've been fighting about religion for hundreds of years. The Middle East is ready to blow each other up. Gay marriage, we spent too much time on in this country. Quite frankly, we really didn't need to address it the way that we did in the country. I think the Obama administration handled it wrong just a little bit because it's now brewed to a political fight mixed with religion. What rights do individuals have if they believe in God? For me, my only religion is positive energy. You minus religion, you minus gay marriage, you minus all of this, all of the problems go away. We're going to spew into even more arguments in 2015, 2016, all part of a longer political religious fight. It's all wrapped around politics. Sugarcoat it for personal gain. Politicians on personal missions. Not religion, personal missions. Vladimir Putin, should he call Elton John? Not really. Doesn't make a difference what they do in Russia. It's a PR stunt. It's all PR. At the end of the day, it's a personal mission.
Hello. I don't think that religious beliefs are under attack because marriage equality is happening. I think that there's a disconnect between human rights and religious movement, and I think that has been an issue in society for a very long time, where there is a lack of understanding when it comes to everybody being equal, whether or not you decide if that is the case, and the fact that that's being put under attack, socially speaking, when it comes to the protection under the law, is the big issue. You can believe whatever you want as long as you are not affecting negatively anybody else around you. And I think that that's probably what a lot of people don't seem to grasp when it comes to the movement of religion around the world and that oppressive nature to control. Because if you believe in something that rings truly to you, it should not matter what other people believe, especially if they're not in any way, shape, or form affecting your world or harming you in any way. So I think that that's, it's a very American value at this point that has come up, and it'll start hopefully very interesting conversations, but there is no direct focus on religion when it comes to marriage equality, because marriage equality is supposed to be the protection under the law for anybody, no matter their sexual orientation, and they're relating to each other and being protected under the law that way. The whole Putin Elton John thing is kind of funny because that stems from that portion of government system which thrives on policing the majority and making people feel like they're protected when they're not. And when it comes to human rights, that's an issue that has been happening for a long time. If the majority of people are vocal and visible about being against any type of oppression. Officials and leaders around the world will attempt to be in unison with the times, especially if by being very aggressive in contrast, then they don't look as brave.
Hey, Brandon, Luis Garcia here. Just wanted to call and congratulations on the show. Happy birthday. You've always been a monumental support in my life. And this year was monumental for me because I came out on March 8th. Thank you so much for all your support, my friend. And I hope nothing but the best. You have a favorite fan here of the show and of you. Anyway, Kim Davis. Pretty controversial subject right now. I think she's doing it for attention. And I think the pressure around the situation is going to reach some pinnacle points and open a lot of conversations as to why people choose to do what they do. But I don't think that she's going to be able to hold out for too much longer. But I do think it is a publicity stunt at the same time. I don't really believe that she's doing it completely out of what she believes in. I think it's a time for attention, and she's going to capitalize on it. So anyway, it's been a monumental year for me and for our community, and it's very overwhelming. Anyway, best of luck, and I hope the best for you guys. Bye-bye.
Hi, Mom.
Hi, Brandon. Just called to wish you a happy birthday.
Thank you. I wanted to let you know that a lot of our listeners and online fans have been praying for you and asking for you. Do you want to say hi and tell them how you're doing?
Yes, thank you very much. Well, I'm a little better today. I'm able to move my leg on my own pretty much. I'm bruised up pretty bad from top of my belly through my groin. So pretty tense area there. They have limited me to sitting up at just 30 minutes at a time. So I'm on the mend.
Okay. All right. Well, a lot of folks wanted to say hi, and they're praying for you and care about you. So we love you, Mom.
Okay. Thank you. I really appreciate it.
All right. Thanks. And I'll have a good birthday. Thanks.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
This is GNR, Gay News Radio.